Welcome everybody to the Rainmaker podcast. And in this segment, we're going to be talking about the brand blueprint. And we've got somebody on who is turned into a brother to me, who he represents. The fastest to do a lot of things is the one of none other than Mr. Dave Whichard. Brother, welcome to the podcast.
Hey man, it's always an honor. I appreciate you. Love you and your wife, your family, and everything you're doing.
For
So,
sure.
yeah.
Thanks, man. Well, Dave, let's dive right in because I want to make this 30 minutes very, very impactful. So let's take me back to the beginning. Like, how did you even get introduced to the life insurance game in the first place?
Well, I was in supplemental for a while, right? And we really didn't have a life product that I was selling. The first company I worked for, we went door to door, and sold accident policies basically, and then added disability on top of that later on. But we never got into the life side. They'd have somebody else come back and do that. The second company I was with, I was there 19 years, and we did supplemental cancer, heart, stroke, things like that. I knew about life insurance. We just had a product that wasn't really good. It was very few people could get qualified. You had to do a phone interview, all kinds of weird stuff. So we just didn't sell much of it. Knew there was value. And then in 2019, connected with one of my mentors, Andrew Taylor, learned about Family First Life, and went to convention 2020 a couple months later, and we just I went to convention and learned more about it and went all in, and we were able to essentially build $1 million a month organization in the next 8 months, which you know that was really fast, right? So, but I just took the blueprint that they had and ran with it, and listened to what was working and duplicated it fast as I could.
Yeah.
That's how.
So, yeah, that's interesting because a lot of people don't have that type of success so fast. How are you able to do that in such a fast? Because you like set some records. You were the first to do a couple things, right?
Yeah, I mean, just being as transparent as I could be. I was just talking to a team about this morning. When I was in my early 20s, I got my first outside sales job. And I remember getting hired for that job and I had a wife and a young baby. And I had to hit quota with selling cell phones back in 92. That ages me a little bit because no one bought them back then. It was literally cold calling phone pages, the yellow pages, things like that. And selling 31 phones was quota. And I knew I had to make that much money to kind of keep my place, right? And he asked me when he hired me, he says, why should I hire you? I said, because if I don't, I will hit quota. If I don't, I lose my home. Like, see, the drive was there so much. And so, Arturo, earned at a very young age, I could outwork people. I worked 3 jobs at that time. I sold cell phones. I had a side business I was working, and I'd get up in the middle of the night and toss newspapers. So I worked a lot of hours at a very young age. And so my wife could stay home at the time with 2 young kids, and I had one car, had holes in it. So I had dreams and goals, but I just hadn't found my niche. And then learned about life insurance later on at 27 years old, got in the insurance business because I knew I could build residual income. I was willing to work hard. I remember my boss hired me. He said, well, if you'll work 40 hours a week, you'll be successful here. And I looked back at him, true story, Arturo, and I said, what do I do with the other 40? So what do you mean? Working 3 jobs. How fast can I get to this position? He says, we got to do these awards. It was a 26-week award. I did it in 19 weeks. Again, records. So anytime there was a record that was possibly beat, I was going to do my very best to die trying getting it, right? So I did that there, made a name for myself kind of in that world. I actually left that company, and for a year later, they were telling my story so I could recruit people like crazy. They called me and said, oh, I heard about you. It was weird, but it was cool. And so when I started the next company, we were able to recruit some people from there over. They also had records. And one week I was out of town there, and there was a record need to be beat. And my boss told me at lunch, he's like, hey, remember they have that thing up. It was in 2021 or 2020, actually. 21. Yeah, 21. And the year before they'd come out with these set of coins. And it's the craziest things you'll do for not even money or whatever, but just something. He says, they have those coins that came out in 2000. It's a mint thing. They only made so many of them. Wait, they're still giving that? Nobody wanted it? They go, no. And so I ended up writing this 2,000 units, and the record had stood for 7 years. It was like 1,600 units or something. I did like 2,200. By the way, the next month, somebody else, one of my buddies, beat that. So it sets those bars. The same thing happened with Family First Life. When I came here, there was a goal. I learned some of those records as I started moving forward towards that. Didn't know integrity was the same, became an integrity partner in 2.5 years, which was also another. I heard somebody did it, and this time I wanted to beat that too.
Right.
So I think it's just one of those drives in me that if there's something that can be accomplished, even if you fall and you don't get it, why would you not aim as high as you can, which is a record, whatever that might be. So that's how I've always lived my life. And to this day, I still do the same thing. So
Yeah, for sure. That's amazing because it's like I teach my daughter that also, which is if there's one quality that you want to have that will separate you from anyone else, is being hardworking, right? If you carry that in your lunchbox with you every single day, that's going to separate you from the pack. Get there early, stay late, because the thing that happens is a lot of people want to get there late and leave early.
it's true.
And the recipe for that is you're stealing from yourself. You think you're stealing from the company, but you're really stealing from yourself, right? Because the more that you're there, the more that you're going to get better, right? You're going to get stronger. You're going to learn something, and confidence comes from taking action. And the reason why most people don't have confidence is because they've broken the word to themselves so many times. They don't believe a word that they say. And the only way to get confidence is to take action over and over again, right? And drive fear into a small corner. If you're riding a bike, you're learning how to ride a bike, right? You don't watch YouTube videos. You don't stand there on the sidewalk and watch your cousin ride the bike. At some point, you got to put on a helmet. Well, for us, we didn't have helmets back then, but you get on the bike, you're going to fall off. It's going to hurt. You're going to get back on and you're going to try not to scrape your knee that time. And then over time, you'll have confidence to be able to ride the bike. And then ultimately, you're doing wheelies, you're riding with no hand. But again, right, it's taking action every single day. So being hardworking is definitely something that I've seen from you as a leader, is leading from the front. Even this time, right, putting back on sales hat, jumping in there with your team, leading from the front, producing. And your team sees that. You can see the numbers go up. They want to see if their leader still has it. That's a question that you answer in their mind. But I want to transition into something else that I've seen you do from afar that's really noticeable. That I don't think most people have noticed, is that you've built an amazing personal brand. And so I'm curious on when you started to do that. You got like 150,000 followers on Instagram. And I'm just curious on if that was by design or just as a byproduct of like what you were doing, or was it intentional that you just started to focus on maybe I should try to build something to attract the right type of people, and what happened there?
Yeah, I mean, the truth is, just like we get in circles, right? With you and me, coach, whatever, Cody, you got, I was out with Andy Elliott about a year and a half ago, not quite, and spent some time with him. And he, looked at my shirt and he's like, "What are you wearing?" And so anyway, we started talking and made sense to me. And this logo came through his brother. Actually, he created it for me. And it's, heart, faith, hustle. We talked about velocity being fastest and all these different things. And the day after my dad died, he sent me this logo. He didn't know my father had passed. And he talked about it. He said, basically, Brandon Wood is his name. And it's his brother. And he said, hey, after a lot of thought and prayer, I came up, this is a logo. I hope you love it as much as I did. And he said, I thought of the falcon, the fastest bird in the dive. I thought of lightning. And then I thought of heartbeat. Mind blowing about that. It's the day before my dad died. I saw him take his last heartbeat. I walk out. They give me one of those cups with the heartbeat thing on. I thought maybe I'll tattoo it, whatever, one day, but keep it. And then this happens. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm crying. I'm like, this is amazing. So it means a lot more to us than that. It's on this side. That's velocity. So velocity means going fast, but a lot more about that is heart, faith, and hustle. We just wanted a brand that didn't necessarily relate to insurance, even though it is, but it's also other things. Like if we have the heart to serve, we have the faith in ourselves, but also in God. Mine's Jesus, and then obviously, the hustle. We got to work hard, like we just talked about, right? And I wanted to say something too that you had said earlier. But yeah, for the branding part, dude, I've always posted on social media. I just got a little bit better at it, and then obviously hire people to help you do that, and then we hire people to help scale things like that. We were able to get followers up to a certain amount, but not where it is now. And then it's just, Facebook's growing too, just like you. And we're trying to grow, obviously, YouTube and podcast, coaching, all that stuff. Same thing. Always trying to get better to serve people. My heart's just to serve others and help people be better. So the more ways I can do that, the better for me. But I wanted to say something. You said something about lying to yourself, and I heard this somewhere. I can't take credit. We always hear from somebody, right?
Yes.
But it was like a credit score, and he used the analogy of like you lie to yourself in the mirror every day, and he goes, it's almost like your personal credit score. Like so, every time you tell yourself you're gonna do something you don't, guess what? That score goes backwards. And so it's challenge yourself every day. What does that personal credit score look like? How many times are you lying to yourself? Well, if you keep lying to yourself, you keep saying you're going to do something and don't do it, that score doesn't look really well. So anyway, it's just another analogy of that situation. But I do think that happens all the time, Arturo. People lie to themselves in the mirror. And I think I take almost to a fault sometimes. I'll push myself beyond probably some of the limits I think I can do because it's just for other people. Because I know there's others watching that depend on me to lead them. Like you said in the sales part, you're right. We're up. We're up. We're up. We're having a good year. And so anytime you're up, you look at what are the reasons. I don't know if that's the only reason. Only God knows that. But I think we've done a lot of right things with the brand, the culture, all those things, and leading from the front is definitely part of that.
Yeah, for sure. And so the reason why I asked about that is because, again, it's still this consistency effort of putting things in. See, when you post things on social media, it's delayed gratification. You're not going to reap the benefits of making one post and going viral. But if you have an action plan to be able to do that. And the reason why I'm talking about this stuff a lot is because there's a lot of things changing in the market where a lot of competition that was outside of being online and advertising on Facebook advertising and all of these things. Now all of that money is going from one place into online running ads. So that means the competition is going to get stiff. There's going to be people with big budgets than you. And then the cost is going to inflate a little bit. So the question becomes now, what can you do to stand out to make you different than everybody else? And it's your personal brand. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because I want people to understand this thing. And I'm going to look at the camera because I'm really trying to drive this point home. So Daniel Priestley wrote this book called Key Person of Influence. And in this book, he surmises income follows assets. What do we know about assets? Liabilities take money out of your pockets and assets put money, right? So if that's the case, then what assets do you want to have? Well, a brand is an asset. Instagram is an asset. And the reason why is because we know that the people who have the most assets or the best ones are the wealthiest people in the world. And so what you want to think about is your brand as an asset. And then when you create content, this is an asset. So if you're adding an asset to your Instagram account, what we call that is appreciation. You can give yourself a raise every single day by posting valuable content that is an asset. Say it once, and it'll reach 100, 1,000, 2,000 people. That ultimately it can change somebody's lives, and then over a long period of time, that will compound. And so this is very important because every time I'm looking at your page, I'm like, man, Dave is getting 30,000 views, 40,000 views per video. That's impacting a lot of people. Who you can reach from one 90-second video is what agents are trying to reach in 6 months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think, Arturo, I went through that place where it's like, man, is this weird? What do people think? And all that. And I've gotten better over time with that. And even more recently, like when you saw me last time we saw each other, you might have saw a different Dave a little bit. And I think no matter how successful we are or how successful we might think we should be, whatever the case may be, at the end of the day, why are we doing what we're doing? And for me, it's serving God, it's serving the people. That's what gets me up every day. So if that's the case, then I have to be more transparent with my message. And I think that is the key. People are going to relate to you because you're Arturo Johnson. People are going to relate to me because of my stories, my situation, and those type of things. Everyone's going to relate to the same person. They're just not. But I think a lot of people on social media do bring value. You take Andy Frisella, you take, Ed Milet's of the world and Andy Elliott's and all those guys, Sean, whoever. And certain people relate to different people and get things out of them. Alex Moses is different than all those guys. I mean, they're all different in some ways, but they all bring value. So I think for us, it's just, what do we bring, right? We got to be ourselves. And so that's what I've learned recently is, man, I got to tell my story. I got to tell the downfalls. I got to tell about, man, I've had bankruptcies. I've had divorce. I've been through ups and downs and failures, and all those things matter because being transparent is the truth. It's not, it's all glimmer and, hey, I got a nice car, I got a nice house. None of that. It doesn't really matter. Like, people want that. They want to see that success, but they also want to know, hey, man, you're human. Like,
Right.
what do you do to get where you're at? How can
Exactly.
you do that? Right. So
Yeah, so true.
that's a personal brand to me, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And it's authenticity. Like in a day and age where social media is a thing and it is a tool, there's a lot of facades and fugazis on a lot of things, and people are searching for authentic relationships, authentic places to go for true information, right? And authentic people and connection. So with that, being able to share that side of you, right, is important because now people can trust you because they're like, oh, you've actually been through something. You're battle tested. If we were going to go to war, would we want to go to war with a person who's the golden boy, who's never been through anything, the heir of the throne, that just got knighted? Or do we want the general that's been to war 3, 4, 5 times, been to battles, got the scars, got the gray hair? We want to follow somebody that's been battle tested, right? And a person who hasn't been tested can't be trusted.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing when you sit down, you and your wife, right? We had dinner that night with Mary and learning about your story, learning about your family, learning about your upbringing. That, you know, and I told you things, right? That's where trust is built, is being transparent with people, right? So that's why I love you. Like but it's a relationship. It comes over time. You know, it's proven. Hey, if I say I'm going to show up, I show up. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And that's one thing I always take pride into. Arturo's, like you mentioned about leading from the front. It's the same thing when it comes to social media. I talk about my guys posting all the time. I tell them about the brand. Dude, this brand is not about Dave Whichard. This brand is about us as a company and a brand that people could be proud of. That's why we formed it, right? Does it mean there's insurance in there? Yes, that's part of it, but it's more than that, right? So,
But I think that's important, Dave. I don't want you to gloss over that because you're more than just an insurance person. You're a father, you're a child of God, you're a friend, you're a husband, right? You're a leader, you give, right? You're part of multiple communities. Like most people don't just want to know about the insurance side; they want to know who you are as a person, your mission, your vision, and your values, and that's what we're connected with. People aren't buying insurance because of the insurance; they're buying you.
That's right.
And so, what's a better way than to create and share the narrative for people to know, like, and trust you by posting content and letting people know kind of what's going on, what are the things that you believe. And see, I think that like at some point we were taught not to do a little bit of this stuff because it could hurt us. But like now it's shifted. Not doing it hurts you more because it's like, well, trust is at an all-time low. People need to know that you're an expert at what you do. They need to be able to see that you're a real person and need to be able to hear your heart. And the easiest way to do that is consistently show up on social media.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And anyone can do it, right? Anybody can do it.
Right.
The purpose is to help people. You know, you got to get on there and you got to talk. You might screw up, might look weird. It doesn't matter. Like, you'll grow followers. You'll grow people that follow you and want to learn from what you have. If you have value, like you said, bring what's best for you. Don't try to be somebody else, you know? And I think that's key. And you brought up a lot of things there. Yes, I am a dad. I'm a grandfather. Like, I call Papa because I don't think I'm that old, but because I have 5 of them. I got 1 on the way. I got 4 daughters. They're all married. We have a big family, and that drives me too. And then there's the work family, right? It's like, you know, I don't want to leave here a lot of days. I feel like that's weird. No, it's not. I love my wife, and I can't wait to see her, right? I have grandkids. I devote special time to them, and I can't go more than, I've told you a story, 7-10 days. I'm not sure I've gone more than 10 days, maybe one of them, because they lived out of state at first. But it's like, man, I got to see them. You know, it's just like my kids, and you know, I love being around my family. But my work family matters too. So when I'm not here, I miss them, which is, people like us weird. But see, when you find your passion, right, and you find your joy in life, which is serving other people, and how that brings so much out of you and brings so much value to your own heart, and people start realizing, like, if you just gave more to other people every day, your life would just be so much better. It just would. Anybody that says it's not more valuable to give something than to receive, and they've never given something to truly see somebody cry in front of them, change their lives, whatever it might be, that feeling is way better than somebody giving you something, or they're lying to you. I've had great gifts given to me, But at the same time, the gifts I've given away and changed someone's life or had someone cry or, oh my gosh, or, I just talked about this there. Like people might work with me for a while. I don't believe I've ever had anybody honestly leave me, at least intentionally anyway, could say, man, he tried to hurt me or I didn't leave better off because of Dave. Now, maybe they didn't leave financially, but that's not all on me. Like,
right, exactly.
I can't push them to work every day, but I don't think that I've had people leave here saying they're a better husband, a better wife, or a better father, or they found God through us. Whatever
Right.
it may be, I want them to be better off because they found we connected in some way or form. And I think if we live our days and our life like that, it just makes the world a better place, right? So
Yeah, I think that's the ultimate sign of leadership. Not what you can do for just somebody financially, right? It's mentally, spiritually, and financially, and that's the total package. Is you're actually making an impact. That's what an impact is, and that's why impact it comes before income in the dictionary. Is because you're impacting people's lives, right? And so I think that just from getting to know you from afar and seeing you and following you on social, right, is that your reputation exceeded you online, but it didn't precede you because when I met you, I was like, oh, there's so much more in store to like meeting you and getting to connect and having some similar stories and things and getting some time to really spend time together at dinner with your wife, Neri and Alex. Like that was an amazing moment where it's like Dave truly wants to serve people. He wants to see everybody win. He has a big heart. And I can see why people follow you as a leader, right? And that may not be the most like revenue driven thing, but you're right. Like people can never say that you didn't care about them, and a lot of times we don't have that these days. Everybody is a number. Everybody's kind of got the herd mentality, the microwave mentality. But what I like to think is that like people don't break up with good relationships; they just grow into a new opportunity, and that's what's happening for you. A good tree is bearing great fruit, and so again, I'm proud of you for doing that from afar. I've taken notes and saying, hey, how I can be a better leader and lean into serving a lot more, because sometimes we can put that on the back burner for some numbers on the leaderboard, right? And so I don't want to overshoot that. Like if you're a leader, you definitely need to focus on pouring into your team, spending time, knowing what's going on, having lock-ins, having serious conversations about things outside of just the business, so that they don't feel like they're only there for just for revenue purposes. And I can see that from your team. How many people were here in Nashville in the Greatness Factory last week? 15, something crazy like that.
I think we had 2021, something like that.
Yeah,
Maybe.
something insane. Well, they would follow you and come here to support you. I'm like, that's amazing. That's the biggest turnout I think we've had, and that's a huge testament to you. So anyway, and a lot of that comes with branding, that comes with leadership, and it also comes with consistency, right? Because you're building something amazing. So as we kind of transition into wrapping this one up, you mentioned something about confidence and worrying about what people think, and at multiple levels, right? So when you first start on your business or you start posting on social media, one way, but then ultimately you said that with like your content, you shifted. So even at the highest level, you still can kind of get caught up in worrying about what people think. And so I'm curious on what your philosophy now is after just having that happen, where I'm assuming you're making that about me, and that's why you get caught by that. Like my message is to serve the people, and if that's what I'm called to do, then that's what I do. And now that removes all the pressure you even worried about if you mess up, if you forget what you need to say, if you stumble, because as long as your heart is pure and intention is right, like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think our success and our ceiling is only limited by our identity, right? That we've created. We have an identity, and I think a lot of us want to go back and we think of failures. We think of other people that we knew in the past that maybe are looking at us a different way or whatever, or maybe saw us fail in some way, right? And then we're successful. We think, we've moved forward and we're in a different place. We still want to maybe think that way. And I think, Arturo, to be honest, I got in my head a little bit about some of that stuff. And I think when I realized it wasn't about, like you said, about me, it never has been about me. I've always said that, but I think there was that part of my mind, like, should I say this or should I not say this? Should I tell this or not tell this? And the truth is, being totally transparent with my life and the failures that I've had is only going to help somebody. Because one of the things Jeremiah 29:11 tells us is, if we keep our mouth shut, we'll be able to hear from God. we're going to go through those things, but God's going to get us out of it, right?
Mhm.
Eventually, we're getting out the other end. And I think as we go through things in life, I talk about this a lot because it means so much to me, that we go through things and people think, man, I'm going to fail or whatever, but you're going through that so that you can help other people get through it eventually down the road. Someone else is going to come in your life because you fought through whatever adversity is. Maybe it's in business, maybe it's whatever it is, your life, divorce, maybe it's a child thing, a death in the family, whatever it might be. Because you went through that, you know how to help them get through it. Why? Because God got you through it.
Right.
And so I guess now that the identity's changed, meaning I understand completely who I am and where I'm going, that it doesn't really matter. It's like I said, if I affect one person, that's all that matters. But then when you have 20 come up, dude, that makes you feel even better.
Right.
And see that one change in my mentality is, look, I'm going to say what I've always said what's on my heart, but a little bit different intensity. You know what I mean? And I think not holding anything back matters. Whatever's in your heart, your mind, and your soul, if you're doing it the right way and you're not trying to hurt somebody, you're just trying to tell the truth, there's nothing wrong with that. And that's why people follow and want to listen to those type of people. And dude, I just want to find the audience that I can help. That's it. And
So,
if a person, thousands or hundreds of thousands, whatever God calls, that's what I believe we can speak. And I've shared this, like in a stadium and fill it with people. Yes, I do believe that.
yeah.
That's God's calling, and that's what's meant to be.
Yeah, for sure. So good. Well, Dave, again, it's always good to connect with you. Always learning a lot, getting a lot of wisdom from you. If people watching this and they would just want to know how they can get connected with you or where they can follow you, can you just tell them where they can find you on social?
Sure. Yeah, it's at Dave Whichard, DaveWhichard. Pretty simple. At Dave Whichard, Dave Whichard on Facebook, Instagram, we have YouTube, all of it, my name.
For sure. Again, thank you so much for hopping on the brand blueprint, Dave. This has definitely been amazing. I'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks, bro.